How's it going there, guys? David Nader here, and today I have not exactly a movie review, but I want to talk about the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, I remember first hearing about this movie, and my reaction was pretty much identical to most people when they heard of Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like, yeah, it's going to be a movie about a talking raccoon and a tree, and the tree's played by Vin Diesel, and he only has 3 words in his many lines of dialogue in the movie, and Bradley Cooper plays a raccoon. That's kind of interesting. That might be really, really bad though, but that might be kind of cool. Who knows? We'll see. And then the trailer came out, and my personal reaction to it was, okay, there definitely is still potential for this movie to be bad, but I feel like they're going to handle this movie in just the right way that this might actually be the best superhero movie ever made. Not fair expectations that I have for this movie. I mean, my expectations weren't quite that high. I wasn't expecting it to be better than The Dark Knight or the first Avengers, but I was hoping that would be at least close to as good as the first Avengers. I was hoping it would at least be in my personal top 5 favorite superhero movies of all time when it came out. And then the reviews came out for it, and they were very positive. Everyone just fell in love with Rocket Raccoon, as well as Chris Pratt in the role of Star-Lord. Everyone just loved all these characters. People said it's hilarious. You can just straight up call it a comedy. It's that before anything else, and it just totally works. And I was like, yes, I'm so excited for this. It's going to be a really good comedy with some awesome visuals, but at the same time, still going to be a cool, exciting MCU movie. But when I actually saw the movie, I quite liked it. Also, I'm kind of out of breath right now, guys. I'm not going to get into why, but sorry if that's kind of annoying. Just try to bear with me. But anyways, yeah, I enjoyed the movie, to be sure. In fact, when I walked out of the movie, this was before I started actually doing movie reviews, but I would have given it probably an A- type rating. But that was still short of the rating that I was hoping to give it, and my expectations, I admit, were not fair. I was hoping that was just straight up going to be an A+, or at least a very high A, bordering on an A+, but hopefully an A+. But also, you gotta take into account that grades are very arbitrary. You know, I mean, a movie that you might give an A or an A- to, you might actually consider to be, or you might actually enjoy it more than a movie that's an A+, but just for that movie's merit, you might grade it as an A+, just because you think on its own merits it actually has less flaws than the A- movie, but you like the A-. So, grading systems obviously are just kind of arbitrary, and there's some problems with them, but for whatever reason I just like adding ratings at the end of my movies, and it just gives people more of a specific idea of what my overall thoughts are for a movie to an extent. But I don't know, I can understand why people like to use grades and why some people don't like to use grades, but anyways, I was getting off on a tangent there. The point is, I walked out of Guardians of the Galaxy thinking that was basically fairly great, but not as good as I was hoping it would be. But I felt like, you know what? I think it just might not have been what I was expecting it to be. So when it came out on Blu-ray, I bought it almost immediately. I was like, alright, I'm going to watch this, just going to watch it for what it is, and hopefully it's going to be just an amazing movie. Hopefully it's going to be like one of my top 2 or 3 favorite superhero movies, MCU movies. But the thing is, despite the fact that I went into it hoping that it was going to be better, like I was trying to enjoy the movie for what it was, I wasn't actually going into it with empty expectations. I mean, yes, I already knew what I thought of the movie before, so it's obviously not going to be entirely empty expectations unless you just empty that memory out of your brain, but that's beside the point. The point is, I was trying to be a little more fair with it, but I actually wasn't at all. In fact, my expectations were a little bit higher because I was hoping to not only love the movie a whole lot, but it was a movie that I already knew I didn't love as much as I wanted to, but I was hoping that it would just magically change, and I walked into it, or, well, not walked into it, sat down on the couch and watched it, and I enjoyed it even less than I did the first time around. I still thought it was a good movie, and I've seen the movie probably 5-6 times over the past couple of years, and each time, honestly, it has gone down a little bit in quality for me, and really, it's because, and it hasn't been a consistent thing. It's not like this whole time I've been like, okay, in a little while I'm gonna watch Guardians of the Galaxy again, and it's gonna be great. I'm finally gonna really, really love it. No, it's not been like that, but in the corner of my mind, it's just occasionally been like, hey, I'm gonna watch that movie again. Hopefully, I'll really just, because basically it boils down to the reason I've continued to enjoy it less and less, just because I'm trying too hard to analyze it. I'm thinking too much about it. I'm not actually just watching the movie as it plays out. And I'm kind of that way in general sometimes with movies. I've just occasionally kind of messed up my viewing experiences because I was just thinking about it a little bit too hard. That's not to say you shouldn't think while watching a movie. Obviously you should pay attention and look under the surface for like the themes, if that's something you're into. But basically, if you're getting too much into like lost in thought, if you're just drifting off and thinking, trying to think too hard about specific aspects of the movie while you're watching it, that could be a problem. What you end up doing is actually ignoring sections of the movie, and I've just continued to do that. But the thing is, it wasn't until fairly recently that I realized I've done that, because most movies that I've made that mistake and done that for, I generally only do it for the first time viewing, and then I realize, alright, I wasn't actually focused on the movie. This time, I'm going to watch it for what it is, and just, I'll like it or not, we'll see. And I've had a more, whether I actually like the movie more or less than I did the first time, I've had a more, a more cohesive, overall just good feeling movie watching experience. But for whatever reason, it never registered in my head that I was just thinking too hard and not even really paying attention as much as I should have, and just going along with the ride while watching Guardians of the Galaxy. I made that mistake like 5 or 6 times. But with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 coming out, for whatever reason it just clicked with me. I was like, you know what, I've been just doing plainly, I mean, it should be very easy to just sit down and watch a movie and just watch a movie and not mess up and do a bad job watching a movie if you're trying to pay attention to it. But I don't know, my brain's just kind of dumb, I guess, I don't know. But it just finally clicked with me. I was like, okay, I'm just going to not overthink this movie. I'm just going to sit down and watch it. As it happens, I just watched it again yesterday, and it did work. This is the best time I've had watching the movie since I first saw it in theaters. Now, this is not an A+ movie for me. I don't think it's the best MCU movie. In fact, I'd honestly, if we're ranking the MCU movies, I'd say it's in the lower tier, like the lower half of the MCU movies. I mean, there are only a couple other MCU movies that I like better. That would be like, Guardians of the Galaxy is a movie in the MCU that I only place it higher than a couple other movies, is what I meant to say. Like, I mean, like Thor 1 and 2, Iron Man 2, and Ant-Man. Those are pretty much the only ones that I like less than Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's kind of low on the list considering just how many there are. Certainly not a bad thing, because all things considered, I enjoy pretty much every movie in the MCU, except for Iron Man 2 and Thor. I mean, those have just gotten... they just don't hold up to repeat viewing. I think they're fine for a one-time or two-time watch, but after that, they just don't have rewatch value that some of the other movies have. But anyways, I keep on going on tangents about the other movies, but basically, I still don't love Guardians of the Galaxy, no, that's not true. I really like this movie, and I basically do acknowledge that it's a fairly great movie. It's just not exactly what I expected it to be. But the point is, I've been not doing a good job watching this movie, and I'm saying, you shouldn't do this for movies. In case you're a person who just gets lost in their own thoughts way too much watching a movie, because I don't know if I'm like ADHD or something, but I do generally lose my train of thought a lot, or my attention just kind of drifts off, or while I'm watching a movie I think too hard about it and just basically get lost in my own thoughts and start ignoring the movie. So I'm saying you should definitely try to avoid doing that type of thing, because it's just, you have a much better time, whether the movie's good or not, watching a movie if you just don't make that mistake. And again, maybe that's just me, maybe that's only a very small minority of people, I'm just being hypothetical. But the point is, it's just kind of to say that I've had kind of an odd experience with Guardians of the Galaxy over the years, with overhyping it and overthinking it, but I finally sat down and watched this movie and really enjoyed it. And, about the movie itself, just I walking into it originally, I heard, like, it's mainly just a comedy, but honestly, while the movie is funny, it's, some of the humor, I think, just is a little bit trying too hard, although that's maybe my taste, but just on a general basis, I do, to this day, chuckle fairly consistently throughout the movie, but I don't think it's absolutely hysterical. I think it's somewhat, fairly decently funny movie. But the things, oddly enough, that I like most about it are the visual style, the cinematography and direction, the visual effects, I think are pretty much the best out of all the MCU movies. This and Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Both movies, I think, have the best, most impressive, and honestly beautiful visual style out of all these movies in the MCU. And I touched on that a little bit in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 in my review for that. And also the music in this movie. The MCU's music doesn't generally stand out too much. I mean, you can learn more about that in Every Frame of Painting, the YouTuber's video, Marvel Symphonic Universe. Great YouTuber, by the way. But, you know, there's more often than not, honestly, the music was very heartfelt and really well done and exciting, and not to mention the soundtrack itself. But basically, my opinions for Guardians of the Galaxy, I think compared to most people, are sort of unorthodox. That's also part of the point of this video, as well as just me talking about my kind of odd, kind of weird experience watching this movie. Anyways, overall, as it stands, I think Guardians of the Galaxy is a good movie, although the things that some people say that it does really well, I think it does fine, but other things that people don't generally focus on that I think are the best parts of the movie, namely the visuals and some of the music at the least, not even talking about the licensed soundtrack. And the emotional punch to the movie, I think, is fairly surprisingly good. I mean, at the end of the movie, when Peter is finally opening that present and reading the letter from his mom, for whatever reason, watching it yesterday, that really hit me. I didn't cry or get a lump in my throat, but I was like, oh, man, it's really hit me right in here. It was just a very powerful moment, and very sweet, and there's some very endearing character moments in this movie, and I love it. And I also like how surprisingly gritty the movie is. It's also probably the most violent of all the MCU movies, despite the fact that it's also lighthearted and funny. It's also kind of brutal at the same time. It's interesting how James Gunn, you know, manages to mix the two. But anyways, my thoughts have been going all over the place in this video. I've been bringing up all kinds of random stuff at times. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this kind of rambling video to where I'm just talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. If you liked it, please rate and comment and subscribe. And if you want to, you can also share. And just, you've probably heard this a bunch of times and you probably figured it out for yourself, so this is not exactly an original thing to say, but basically, don't let your expectations, whether impression by other people's reviews that you watch going into a movie, or just your own expectations for a movie, basically just don't let your expectations be unfair going into a movie. And also, if you're a person who has in the past done something similar to me doing this, wow, that was really poorly phrased. Just don't overthink a movie is what I was trying to say. If that's been a problem with you in the past, just watch the movie, take it for what it is, and enjoy it. Anyways, hope you like this video. Goodbye, guys.